you everything you need to fight the Trump administration. This is The Bill Press Show, live at youtube.com/The Bill Press Show.
Hey, come on, Rex, stop all this diplomacy shit. Who do you think you are, Secretary of State? What do you say? Hello, everybody. It's The Bill Press Show. Here we are on a Monday, October 2nd. So good to see you today with a lot of breaking news. But the big news is, look who's here. Back from the dead, almost literally, sadly.
A little too close
Peter
to home.
Ogburn. All right, the return of Peter Ogburn. So good to see you, my friend.
It's good to see you.
Yes.
Hello, Bill. Hello,
And,
Jamie.
I love your
Good
t-shirt.
morning, Peter.
I ain't dead yet.
MFers.
MFers.
Yeah.
No, we can say it right now.
We're not going to
that's
say
right.
it
No,
right
we're not
now.
gonna
We're not
say
going to
that
say it right now in
All
case
right.
anybody's watching with kids.
You're
but
looking great. You're looking good. And this must be the miracle recovery of all miracle recoveries.
all of my doctors have said that they could not have hoped for a recovery this well. Literally 5 weeks ago, I was still comatose.
Which I can attest to.
You saw, Jamie saw, everybody saw me at my absolute worst. Literally 5 weeks ago.
At least you were quiet.
Yeah, it shut me up for a little while. I tell people, being in a coma in the age of a Donald Trump news cycle, not so bad.
Yeah, right.
Not so bad. I don't have to follow the news cycle.
I think all of us might wish for it. Anyhow. All right. Great to have you back.
Oh, I'm so happy to be back.
Looking good, and we struggled along without you. Thanks mainly to the great work of Ray Rogers and Cyprian Bolding here.
Yes.
So, Cyprian and Jamie Benson. Well, I'm looking right at him, calling him Cyprian. Yes,
I resign.
There you go. All three of you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And we got lots to talk about. We will jump right into the news of the day. Tom Price is out. Rex Tillerson has got to be on his way out. He's probably writing his resignation letter as we speak. And a tragic event in Las Vegas. We'll get into it. But first, with
This
Jamie.
is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories for you on this Monday morning. We begin with the news out of Las Vegas. A gunman on the 32nd floor of a Las Vegas Strip casino opened fire on an outdoor music festival. Country music star Jason Aldean was performing when the shots began ringing out Sunday night. As of right now, 7:02 Eastern, Monday morning, over 50 dead. Over 50 dead, over 200 injured after that mass shooting, which could end up being the largest mass shooting in American history. Officers confronted the suspect on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino across the street from the concert. Sheriff Lombardo of the Clark County Sheriff's Office in Las Vegas says they believe this is a lone wolf attack.
And they're looking for this one woman who may have dropped him off, they think.
Person of interest right now,
Yeah.
if you're watching the cables or on Twitter, I'm sure her picture will pop up sooner than later. We go to O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson released from jail
Can
on
you believe
parole.
the Oge is out?
The juice is loose.
Juice is loose.
Early Sunday morning, released slightly earlier than originally predicted, a couple of hours earlier. Of course, O.J. was granted parole and a hearing back in July. Asked as to where he's headed next, classic O.J.
None of your business.
Absolutely none of your business.
You know, by the way, good for him.
Look, he's a free
You know
man
what?
now.
It is none of our business.
No.
Well, it is it, but it isn't. I mean, when I saw that, I thought, good for you. Oh,
None of your business.
Most people believe that O.J. Simpson is actually headed to the state of Florida if they'll let him in. Right, Bill? You say Attorney General Pam Bondi not exactly happy about letting him in?
She is saying that it should not be a catch-all for all crooks and prisoners.
Lot of good golf courses down in Florida.
There are, yes.
I'm pretty sure he'll get let into Florida. All right, weekend
Go
box
down and
office.
search for the real killer.
That's right.
Weekend box office. It is back on top. Last week it had been knocked down to number 2, but Tom Cruise's American Made could not beat Stephen King's It. It remains at number 1, American Made number 2,
Let me tell you.
Kingsman number 3.
I saw Battle of the Sexes. Great movie.
Oh, yeah,
Is it really good?
Really
Oh,
good.
okay. All
Yeah, Battle of the Sexes. Go see it.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yeah, we don't want any more of that diplomacy crap, says Donald Trump. Cut it out, Rex. You're wasting your time. Yeah, he's only Secretary of State. What the hell? Hello, everybody. What do you say? Good to see you today on a Monday. It's a big Monday for many reasons. A Monday, October the 2nd. This is The Bill Press Show. And here we are on our studio in Washington, D.C., booming out to you coast to coast, of course. Thank you. Hope you had a great weekend. Thank you for joining us this morning as we look at you on YouTube, youtube.com/The Bill Press Show. Looking at you also on Free Speech TV and on the great WCPT out in the Chicago area and Indiana Talks in Indianapolis and the surrounding area. Here we are. A lot of big news today. The biggest news of all is, last week, Jamie, we heard a sentiment that everybody in the world heard from the United States House of Representatives.
You have no idea how great this feels to be back here at work in the People's House.
That sentiment expressed last week by Congressman Steve Scalise. That sentiment expressed today by our own Peter Ogburn.
Hello,
Peter
Bill.
Is back.
I'm definitely a living example that miracles really do happen.
We know what a big fan of Steve Scalise as you are, Peter, so we wanted to save those for you.
I spent some time in the same hospital where Steve Scalise recovered. And that is literally the only thing I have in common with Steve Scalise.
And the same trauma surgeons brought you through. In fact, when I saw the doctor standing up taking his bowels, I said, thank you for Peter Ogburn.
I was expecting to see you on 60 Minutes last night, Peter.
You know, it was weird. I watched some of that, and I saw they had some of the footage of him at the hospital. All clear by my doctors. Normally they say they don't want anybody going anywhere close to work until 6 weeks. Yesterday was 5 weeks since my I had an aortic dissection, which then turned into an aortic rupture. And if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but like an aortic dissection, essentially there is a separation in the walls of your aorta where you begin just leaking blood throughout your body. And so I woke up with a horrible pain in my chest. I was taken to the hospital. They looked in my chest. They saw what was happening. I took a helicopter ride, which was fun. I took a medevac to another hospital where they...
One of the greatest hospitals in the world.
I've got so much I want to say about the people at a hospital, MedStar Washington. Dr. Jennifer Ellis was my cardiac surgeon. Amazing. And I landed, and she said, you have an aortic dissection. Do you know what the next step is? And I said, no. And she says, an aortic rupture. Do you know what happens then? And I said, no. And she says, it's game over.
Oh.
So they took me into surgery, and I had open heart surgery. They cracked me open. I'm here now with a broken sternum and broken ribs.
And how's that?
That's not great. It's not great.
It sucks. It sucks to be out here with this out of control.
I've been there. I feel that. And I had open heart surgery. They put a valve around my aorta and
a pig valve?
No, it's a plastic valve.
A plastic valve. Okay.
I actually had a meeting with my surgeon last week, and I said, "How confident are you in this valve?" And she said, "When you're dead and gone, when I'm dead and gone, when your kids are dead and gone, that valve's still going to be around."
Whoa. Yeah.
So they have some confidence that I'm going to be okay.
Maybe they ought to recycle it.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Oh, wow. And you've been in rehab since?
I've been in rehab. They've been coming to the house to make sure that I'm okay. Again, I won't spend too much time on this, but during the surgery is 9 hours long. And you're put in a very awkward position for the surgery.
No kidding.
And they freeze me and froze my blood to about 9 degrees Celsius because it slows everything down. It makes it easier for the operation. And as they describe it, essentially, they have my I'm laying on a cold table, and they have my chest sort of elevated, and my arms are out in like a crucifix type position, and they got me strapped down for 9 hours. And so in the process, I had a series of strokes. I found out There's been a lot of nerve damage. I can't feel a lot of things in my right arm yet, but I'm getting there. I mean, you can see it's better than it used to be.
I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, when you saw me in the hospital, I could barely get it up.
Yeah.
So I've been working with some great therapists.
We're talking about
my arm.
About his arm.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And so I like the therapists have helped me get some strength back in my arm, strength back in my legs, and I start cardiac rehab this week. But I couldn't sit at home any longer. I had to get here and just make sure
we wouldn't
that
have let you
everybody
sit
was
home
okay.
any longer.
This is an amazing time to be alive.
Yeah. And we tried to do what we can, particularly while you were in the hospital there. And but I've waited a long time for this because I was totally rebuffed one day when I showed up at the hospital. And your wife and all of our colleagues said, no, you cannot do that. So, damn it, I've been holding this bottle of bourbon, which I took to the hospital. So I've been holding it for you today.
Popeye needs a spinach.
This is good Bullet Frontier whiskey.
Thanks, buddy.
Now, I'm not sure you're allowed to have this
He
yet.
still can't drink it.
I can't drink it quite yet, but it's nice to know I've got it in case I need it.
You've got it, right. So,
This is what we joked about with Bill when Bill first brought the bottle of bourbon to the hospital, is that Bill thinks that bringing Peter bourbon is like giving ice cream to his grandkids. It is not the same
My
thing.
doctors would have carried you out of there if they don't give me bourbon.
I was told, don't even take it out of your car. Leave it in the car. Don't even take it in the hospital.
Let me just say this very quickly. You have been amazing. Jamie has been amazing. Ray and Cyprian, everybody came to see me in the hospital. You guys kept me company when I couldn't move.
Brought you food.
Brought me food
Yeah.
when I couldn't go get real food. I mean, the hospital food will only take you so far. You guys, I really honestly can't thank you.
Well, we love you, man.
Yeah,
So,
no, I love
all
you
right,
guys, and thank you.
And all of our friends out there, too, who were so solicitous and sent their greetings.
Twitter was unbelievable.
Yeah,
I got so many Twitter messages.
Right.
So I felt very, very loved the entire time I was out.
All right. Yeah, I'll tell you who doesn't feel loved these days is Tom Price. By the way, yes. Okay, so Tom Price is out. But there's so much to say about this. First of all, he shouldn't have been appointed in the first place. Let's remember, right? Why was Donald Trump surprised that Tom Price tries to repay chartering jets to take him to Europe, to Asia, to Georgia, to Nashville, even took a jet from Dulles to Philadelphia, which I'm going to take the train right after the show today. It's about an hour and a half ride at the most. But he chartered a jet for that. God knows what that cost. Probably about $26,000 an hour. At any rate, his Europe and Asia trips alone cost almost $500,000. And when Price said, I hear the criticism now, so I'll make up for it. I'll write the government a check for $50,000 just to pay for my. Certainly not happy with it.
I'm not happy, okay? I can tell you, I'm not happy. Okay.
I'm not happy.
That's a bad sign.
That is a bad sign. It's also a bad sign when he calls you a good man.
I don't like to see that happen, and I think it's a shame because as a human being, Tom Price is a very good man, I can tell you.
Yeah, that's a sure sign.
Michael Flynn was a good man.
Michael Flynn was a good man. Steve
Sebastian
Bannon.
Gorka was a good man.
Steve Bannon was a good man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I think, by the way, Tom Price is the ninth top person in the Trump to get the axe.
That was my biggest takeaway from the Tom.
Sean Spicer, Michael Flynn, Sebastian Gorka. Steve
My
Bannon.
biggest takeaway from the Tom Price thing is how normal it was. Like, if Obama had dismissed his Health and Human Services secretary, it would have been a story.
Huge.
Like, it would have been a huge story. And it's just kind of like,
yeah,
he's just used to firing people all the time.
Well, and of course, you can't say that Donald Trump didn't warn Tom Price. I mean, back in, probably remember this when Trump was speaking to the Boy Scouts back in July 24. He turned to Price, joking, maybe not.
By the way, you going to get the votes? He better get them. He better get them. Oh, he better. Otherwise, I'll say, Tom, you're fired. I'll get somebody.
Well, by the way, in fact, profiteering from the job starts at the top in this administration. Who's making money? Who was making money over the weekend at his golf course? Ka-ching, ka-ching. Donald Trump. He's still doing it. Still owns all these buildings, all these hotels. Money's still going in his pocket, and he never goes anywhere to one of his properties because he's, promoting it. Just self-promotion. Money in his pocket. The same thing with his wife, the First Lady. Melania still has her line of, accessories and jewelry and perfume. I don't know what else she's selling, but it's out there. And so is daughter Ivanka. So, I can see where Tom Price could say, hey, right? Donald Trump is setting the example for all of us. Maximize the opportunity you have to make money and to get a free ride and to get all the goodies you can out of it. Yes.
Like where we don't try and blow each other off the map.
Right. I mean, and that has always been everybody. You talk tough, right? But at the same time, you're exploring that. The president himself pulls the rug out from under you. How do you stay in that job? Why do you stay in that job?
How do you face your family? How do you face the people that are working for you in the State Department?
Yeah, how do you go into the job of the State Department and say, hey, guess what? We're meaningless. We might as well all just quit.
Yeah.
And by the way, Tillerson's been is a lousy Secretary of State anyway. He has hundreds and hundreds of positions, both abroad in our embassies and here at the Secretary of State, as Joe Cirincione has told us so many times, have not been filled. So it's a shell of a State Department right now. But at least Tillerson, in this case, was trying to do the right thing, and the president.
I said this a couple of weeks ago. If we remember, when Rex Tillerson was first being confirmed, all of the news surrounding him was that he was close with Russia, that he was close with Putin because of his days at ExxonMobil. And everybody thought, oh, he's going to be the real puppet for Putin. He hasn't even done that. Good, right? I'm glad that he's not standing up for Russia.
Yeah, that's a low bar, but you're right.
He hasn't done anything. He hasn't even done the things wrong that he was expected to do.
Right. Yeah. No, been in a sense a non-entity there at the State Department. But I got to tell you, I think the writing's on the wall. I mean, Tillerson's on his way out, and again, he's not the one as Secretary of State who is setting foreign policy for this administration. I mean, Trump doesn't even invite him to the meetings at the White House. I've been to a lot of those meetings with foreign leaders at the White House. Tillerson's not even there.
Yeah, I mean, what Trump has turned the State Department into is just a mockery of what the State Department should be and can be, no talks with foreign leaders. There's a skeleton crew there that's working at the State Department. There are numerous jobs that have been left unfilled.
Big jobs.
Big jobs. That Trump is saying, the Democrats aren't passing these nominees or putting these people through. But at the State Department, there are giant holes there that need to be filled that they have zero interest in filling. They don't care. Because the main role of the State Department, if you really look at it, is to try and find some diplomatic solutions and to try and work with other countries. And Donald Trump has shown he has zero interest in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, here's my question to you.
We live in hell. We live in hell with Donald Trump as president. This is insane.
It is. Oh, but there's just one final point on this. Some people have said that this crazy behavior of Donald Trump is Nixon-like, in the sense that Nixon actually, during the Vietnam War, he wanted to scare the crap out of China or Russia, and he ordered this massive show of military strength, flying these bombers for 3 days in a row over part of the Soviet Union to scare them. And he did it deliberately and told Haldeman, I want you to put out the word that this guy is so crazy, we don't know what he's going to do, just to scare them. So he pretended to be crazy to scare the Russians, historians tell us. So some people say that's what Trump is doing, that he's pretending to be crazy to scare the North Koreans. You know the difference here, if you ask me, and from what we've seen? Richard Nixon was pretending to be crazy. Donald Trump is.
Yeah.
Huh? There's the difference.
Good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. All right. Meanwhile, my question to you is, who do you believe about Puerto Rico? Do you believe Donald Trump's tweets from his swanky golf course in New Jersey, or do you believe the reporters and the local officials on the ground in Puerto Rico? If you listen to Donald Trump and his people, it's all rosy in Puerto Rico. Here's Elaine Duke, last week, she actually had here she is.
It is really a good news story in terms of our ability to reach people and the limited number of deaths that have taken place in such a devastating hurricane.
Oh, yeah. It's a good news story, what's happening in Puerto Rico. I mean, you've seen it. Homes destroyed, bridges, roads washed out, the entire island out of electricity, and like 90% of it still is out of electricity. The mayor, ask the mayor of San Juan, she doesn't think it's a good news story.
Damn it, this is not a good news story. This is a people are dying story. This is a life or death story.
So there is no doubt that the good job that FEMA did in Texas, the good job they did in Louisiana, the good job they did in Florida, they did not do in Puerto Rico. It may be picking up now, but they were 2 weeks before they really, really responded. Then when Donald Trump is finally asked about it, well, he gives the lamest of excuses. Well, did you realize it's not so easy to get to Puerto Rico? We can't drive our trucks there.
The response and recovery effort probably has never been seen for something like this. This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water.
Big water, ocean water. As Alec
he is
Baldwin,
the dumbest person.
As Alec Baldwin said on Saturday Night Live, yeah, it's full of fishies and turtles that bite. That water, right?
Yeah,
we can't
places that are far away and hard to
realize-
get to have stopped us from doing great things. as a
We
country.
can't drive our trucks there.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Hands are tied.
But the loss of life in Puerto Rico, Donald Trump, he's got to brag about everything. The loss of life is incredible.
The loss of life, it's always tragic, but it's been incredible, the results that we've had with respect to loss of life. People can't believe how successful that has been, relatively speaking.
I can't believe he's president.
The loss of life is a success.
The loss of life is a success.
Thank God.
Good news story, incredible, historic,
Incredible,
epic,
incredible
biblical.
loss of life. And the idea that he would remember how they criticized Barack Obama for playing golf during some, I forget, crisis, whatever it was. The idea,
Name it. Like any crisis. On
Anyway.
a weekend when there wasn't even a crisis going on, they gave him grief for it.
So here's Donald Trump, spends a weekend again at his golf course, in a swanky golf course at Bedminster, New Jersey, tweeting about what a great job they're doing in Puerto Rico, and accusing the people of Puerto Rico of only saying what the media wanted them to say. Donald Trump actually said they were watching the news, right? And based on what they saw on television, they were talking to reporters and talking about how bad it was. Idiot. They weren't watching television. They didn't have any electricity. They weren't watching the news, right? They were talking about what they were living, what they were experiencing. And we saw the video of these people trying to get to their homes in water up to their waist, right? Saw the bridges washed out. Maybe two things. Maybe Donald Trump ought to take a lesson from Jose Andres, the chef, down there with his World Kitchen Network, I think they called it, or something like that. World Central Kitchen. He's feeding 10,000 people a day, and he's been there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, guy's one of the biggest chefs in the world.
Biggest chef. If Jose Andres could do it, by the way, whom Donald Trump sued for pulling out of his hotel here. If Jose Andres could get there and do it and help those people, why couldn't the federal government? Why couldn't Donald Trump? And the other thing is, maybe he ought to learn something about an island from Barack Obama. In 2010, when the earthquake struck Haiti. Haiti, by the way, is an island.
Lots of water.
Surrounded by water. Big water. Ocean, right? In 2 days, we had 8,000 troops in Haiti after the earthquake. In 2 weeks, there were 22,000 troops. Washington Post reported this. 22,000 troops, 33 naval ships, and over 300 helicopters Right. Compare that to what Donald Trump has done in
Big
Puerto Rico.
water, ocean water.
Big water. Ocean water.
Ocean water. So, pretty bad. And Donald Trump is heading down there tomorrow. Yeah. He'll be as welcome in Puerto Rico as Maria was 2 weeks ago.
I don't know who in their right mind is going to be nice to him when he goes to Puerto Rico. I hope that they fling mud.
I hope we get like George W. Bush throwing a shoe.
Yeah. I'm here for it.
I know. But you know what? I think the governor down there is a Republican. He's been saying nice things, Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I'm telling you. He's more interested in kissing Donald Trump's ass and helping his people. We're going to take a quick break. And for the rest of the show, we have no idea who's going to be our guest today. It is a wide open day. Everybody knows Peter is back, and so we've just invited some friends of his to come by and say hello. So stay tuned. I don't know who the hell's going to walk in the door.
Ma'am, I don't know if you know this, but you're in an island in the water. The ocean water, big ocean, with fishies and bubbles and turtles that bite. We want to help you, but we have to take care of America first.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
So they say it's a man's world? Well, I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were out doing their thing, we slowly changed all that. We changed all that. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
What's up? What's happening today?
Let's do those pearly whites, man. Yeah!
The boys, check it out.
Stand up, do my terrorists, don't compare us.
Ooh, cute.
Are you good to try it?
I'm fine.
Hey girl, what's up? What's the name? What's good? What's up?
What's happening? How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
Yes, sir. See ya, buddy. Today, Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Live video, Bill's commentary, the best clips from the show, all in one place. YouTube.com/The Bill Press Show.
All right, on a Monday, October 2nd, what do you say? The Bill Press Show. Great to see you today. Coming to you live from our nation's capital, as always, with a big change today. Yes, indeed, the one and only Peter Ogburn is back.
Hi there.
Here he is.
I made it back.
And we just issued an open invitation today. Friends of Peter to come in to help us celebrate. And you want to introduce your friends?
Yeah, we've got Van Newkirk in studio with us. So I'm very happy to have Van in. And Emma Roller, two of my favorite guests. Hi, everyone.
Surprise.
Come in and party.
These are surprise guests all morning. Peter did not know that they were coming. He does not know who's coming in the 8 o'clock hour either.
Right. I think it was a great idea for Jamie to book an entirely surprise guest lineup for a guy whose heart just exploded. Let's just say, I just want to say, well done.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, you live your life on the edge anyway.
Yeah, so. I would have it no other way.
We also want to point out, I think we have made this point before, that both Peter and I have had heart surgery.
Yeah.
Now, Jamie, you know, it's a progressive talk radio is a pretty dangerous place here, right? So,
Gotcha.
And we have donuts to celebrate Peter's return today.
Great. I can't have any of the donuts.
We can all eat them, but
you
Peter
brought me
can't.
bourbon. I can't have bourbon. This is great. This is great. Surprises, donuts, and bourbon.
Wait, where's the bourbon?
We got bourbon. You want bourbon? We got bourbon.
And we might add, we're brought to you today by the United International Association of Iron Workers, the great iron workers. Men and women of the Iron Workers under President Eric Dean, building our communities today and ready to rebuild our infrastructure tomorrow. Thank them for their support of the program. Check out their website at www.ironworkers.org. All right, where do we start? We start with, Jamie, an update. Jamie's got a mouthful of donut, but Donald Trump is tweeting already about
Yes, about the Las Vegas shooting. Which,
Las Vegas. Sorry.
By the way, the current totals, as we understand it, is that there are over 50 dead, 200 injured in the mass shooting in Las Vegas. They have identified the suspect. I believe he's a 64-year-old local resident in Las Vegas. Donald Trump tweeting about 29 minutes ago, quote, "My warmest condolences and sympathies to the victims and families of the terrible Las Vegas shooting. God bless you." Nothing else since then.
That is remarkably measured for him.
He didn't write that.
There's no way.
No,
There's no way.
John Kelly wrote that, probably. But, you know, what gets me now, we are in this position in this country where something like this can happen. This could be the worst mass shooting in American history. It's certainly way, way up there. But we're not allowed to talk about why this guy was able to buy a machine gun and own a machine gun and use a machine gun. Not allowed to talk about guns anymore. No, it's considered bad taste.
It's political, right?
Yeah, right. The time to talk about gun control in America is always tomorrow. Like, we're never going to have a real conversation. But this guy had a friggin' machine gun. And if you've watched the videos that are on Twitter of some of the people that were at the concert, and you hear the music, and then you hear the machine gun fire, I mean, it sounds like the things that you see from, like, Karachi. You know, like this is in a major cosmopolitan area of the United States, and this guy's got a machine gun. It's unbelievable.
And people will say, well, people have a right to defend themselves. And wait till the first idiot is going to say, well, if it weren't a gun, you know, he could have had a knife.
Yeah, right.
Can a knife mow down
50 people? Wait, from across the street?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just insane.
Look, we live in a country where we have nuclear war. We're on the brink of nuclear war. There are mass shootings all the time. We've got Nazi rallies that the president defends. There's a general feeling of lawlessness on every level in the country. Like, we're not going to have a debate about gun control now.
Yeah, the thing that disturbs me about this, I think by the numbers, this is the deadliest mass shooting in U.S.
Is
history.
it already?
Yeah, already. And so that makes two of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history, the two most in the past 3 years. And yeah, that's it's getting to a stage where it's almost normal. People expect this. I don't know how deeply this is going to be in the discourse in a week or two from now, and it shouldn't be something that we are okay with, but it is, strangely. And that says a whole lot about, I think, what we prioritize. It's not good.
It shows the power of the NRA, who have really turned this whole issue around, really, where, as I said, I'm not kidding. I mean, people just feel that it's not proper, it's not correct, ever talk about guns in the wake of a mass shooting, but I think it's the first thing we ought to talk about. You're right. It's Orlando, right, the Pulse, and this one.
I feel like I've seen the NRA messaging even more around semi-automatic weapons in the past, 5 years, as, it's clearly you're not going out and hunting deer with a semi-automatic rifle.
You could if you want to turn your kill into a fine mist to take home to your family.
Right. So we have Donald Trump, who supports anything the NRA wants to do. Went to their convention, the whole thing. They endorse him for president. And in many ways that we are unaware of, he is perpetuating and sort of concretizing the impact of the NRA. Somebody told me there's some education board, Betsy DeVos's top board of advisors or something, whatever, or some educational thing that Donald Trump appoints people to. He appointed Wayne LaPierre's wife.
Oh, my God.
So you know what her agenda will be? Guns in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know her. Give every teacher a gun. Arm every teacher.
It's just wild that that's actually a policy point still today like that. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
Like, treating public life as an arms race doesn't end in a good place. Where, like, well, if they have a gun, then you get a gun. Then the other guy gets a gun, then you get another gun.
Let us move on to another topic if we can, because this one just drives me crazy. If you were Rex Tillerson today, Van, what would you be thinking?
Ooh.
Would you be penning a letter of resignation?
This is fine.
Yeah, I think this is fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know what happened. Rex Tillerson goes to China, meets with the president of China, says, maybe you can help us get a little dialogue going with the North Koreans so we can tame them down and stop all these missile tests and kind of get them to at least tone down their Russian nuclear weapons. And Donald Trump over the weekend said, Rex, stop wasting your time on diplomacy.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening here. Did you see the report where, I think the North Korean government's trying to like get around Trump and talk to other people in the administration to see like, okay, what's going on with this guy? And they're sort of shocked by his rhetoric. It's a mess. People love to call North Korean leaders madmen and say they're going to be the ones to bring us to the nuclear brink or whatever. But it seems most of the work being done on that front is coming from Washington.
Yeah, Emma, when Donald Trump says to Tillerson in his follow-up, we don't pursue any diplomatic avenues, right? We'll do what we have to do. I mean, the only other option left
is raining hellfire down on this country and
fire and fury.
Rocket Man. I don't know if Jamie has that clipped up. But yeah, and it just goes to show how Trump, Little Rocket Man, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be Trump unless there was like a specific personal insult.
Rocket Man.
There you go.
I don't think he knows either Kim Jong-un's name or how to say it. So like that's one of those things.
That's another thing.
When Trump gives you a nickname,
true.
He doesn't actually know who you are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably true.
But back to your point about right. I mean, there's only military option.
Right. Well, he's he thinks of himself as this strong man, and he's just someone who doesn't see the human consequences of politics, which is, I think, is kind of the logical endpoint in a lot of ways of the sort of both sides horse race rhetoric of politics that we've seen over the past 5, 10, 20 years is like, well, who's going to win? Who's winning North Korea? It's not, there's millions of people who live in this country and don't deserve to be bombed into oblivion.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but we've never, there's a lot of hostility on both sides, right?
No, totally. I'm not defending North Korea or
Trump.
Yeah. No, neither.
No, that's what I'm
saying.
We've never seen the politics has been ugly, but there's never been as ugly and as personal as Donald Trump has made.
Right, I'm saying
he has taken the presidency to a new depth. I think.
What I wonder is how much North Korean citizens know, because they're
I think
so
they're all
cloistered.
brainwashed.
They're pretty tightly controlled.
How do they conceptualize a danger? I mean, the most likely outcome of any sort of this going over the brink is millions of Koreans on both sides of the DMZ die.
Right.
Right.
And that's something that people really don't have enough gravitas about. I think they don't think about situation. It still seems remote from the U.S. because it likely is. The most likely outcome of militarism and this type of rhetoric is people are going to die again over there, and that's going to be something people put in the ledger.
But, I know, particularly coming from California, a lot of people on the West Coast are really nervous about this because they're, probably can't, their missiles probably can't get to Washington, D.C., but they can get to California and Alaska and Seattle and Portland. And this is going to make them even more nervous because if you tell the Secretary of State, in effect, to shut down all diplomatic options, then you're left with a military option. And it seems to me that the only saving grace is that maybe Defense Secretary Mattis, when Donald Trump says, send the bombers and start dropping bombs on North Korea or fire a cruise missile, that Mattis will say no.
Well, yeah, that's when you get into the realm of it's a constitutional crisis when the military leaders have to decide, are we going to go through with what the commander-in-chief tells us to do?
If that's what we're holding out hope for, we're kind of screwed.
Welcome back, Peter.
Yeah, I don't feel really good about it.
No, because what he would do is fire Mattis and get another general who would.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, a Saturday Night Massacre with Nixon. Be all over again. So then you have Tom Price walking off, riding into the sunset over the weekend. Were you surprised?
Well, again, I saw Trump kind of playing it up as if it were The Apprentice, saying like, "Well, we'll see tonight if he's given a rose or he has to leave the show."
Actually, it wasn't just Friday that he first said that. Last July, if you remember, when he gave the speech to the Boy Scouts, July 24, he sort of sent a little signal.
By the way, you going to get the votes? He better get them. He better get them. Oh, he better. Otherwise, I'll say, Tom, you're fired. I'll get somebody.
Whoops.
Oh, my God.
Whoops.
Wow.
It's just like his tweets. There's something for everything.
Yeah.
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 So
and that will contradict what he is currently saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But here's what I thought was instructive, Ann, is that when Trump was talking to reporters before I got on on Marine One, he said he didn't like the optics of Tom Price taking all these private jets.
God forbid someone God
forbid there's bad optics.
Yeah.
In this White House? What?
But it's wild to me. This is the most 1990s scandal ever. Like this is a regular scandal. Like this is okay. A public official takes way too many $1 million worth of private flights. They paid it. They say they're going to reimburse their seat. Turns out there were all these attachés and like family members hopping on these flights. There's lunches in Nashville. This is not a Trump era scandal. Mm-hmm. We're still trying to uncover. There's still, committees on Russia right now, like Russian Facebook ads. People, there's not condemning white supremacists. Nobody cares about planes, but the one guy who has, all these private flights is the first person to get sacked over it. Like it boggles the mind, but it is, which of these scandals could you go to a common man on the street and explain and get sort of the right amount of outrage about? And it's Tom Price.
Tom Price.
Yeah.
I was also amazed at how normal this felt. It was maybe a week.
Yeah.
This is a scandal. Maybe a little over a week. But, we built up to him resigning, getting fired, however you want to put it. Right. And it was just like, oh, well, yeah, naturally. It's the Health and Human Services Secretary, which, the repeal and replace of Obamacare, which I know has lost a lot of steam, obviously, with the Republican Party, but like that is still a major, major promise that Republicans have made to America. And he's gone.
Yeah.
Poof, poof, and we're done.
And what number is he in terms of like people who've either
I think number
quit or-
9. I think,
9?
yeah, that's what I saw something I didn't, but Bannon, of course, and Reince Priebus, and Sean Spicer, and Sebastian Gorka, and Mike Flynn, and
does
go down
Gorka
the list.
count? Because we don't really know what Gorka's job.
Yeah, but he still counts. That's true. That's
true.
Final point on Price, and Peter and I made this point earlier, is I can certainly see why Tom Price would say, "Hey, why shouldn't I cash in? Donald Trump's cashing in, Ivanka's cashing in, Melania's cashing in." The kind of agenda, it seems to me, of this Trump administration is
right. It's like
ka-ching, make all the money you can.
God forbid someone profit off of public office. Like, I'm so shocked when the entire first family is doing.
There's gambling here. I'm shocked.
Right, exactly.
All right. So on the NFL, Van, there is still a lot of players who took a knee over the weekend and or locked arms. Do these protests continue?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they're going to have the same meaning that they did originally. You had new players like Cam Newton came out and did the Black Power Fist, some other folks like that. But I think the league has done a really good job sort of co-opting and undercutting the message to where it's no longer threatening to the league, where they want to be able to still capture all the people who basically wear the flag to work every day. And those people have basically been assured that the NFL is still going to be the NFL. Nothing's going to change. They're going to have some owners behind the scenes saying, "Oh, maybe I'll donate to your police, brutality foundation that you do, but just chill on the on the kneeling."
The NFL had considered doing a One America patch on all the jerseys this weekend, which again totally nullifies the whole thing. That's not why people started protesting.
Sorry, when Dan Snyder, the man who owns a team called, pardon me, but called the Redskins, shows up and locks arms with his players, I can pretty much say that the protest has jumped the shark.
That was a disgusting photo.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, right.
And you're going to have lots of players who really do feel, they're trying to find ways to protest, and they think it's something that's necessary. But the thing about it is the NFL, their PR machine is much better than individual players, and they're always going to find a way to get out in front of it. Always.
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought it was smart of them, I don't know about you, Emma, not to do what that high school principal down in Louisiana did and said, "You must stand for the national anthem or else you'll be suspended," right? The NFL basically said, "Hey, guys, do your thing," right? No, you're right. Some of those owners coming out with them was a little too much.
But yeah, you're right.
But, and that sort of, in a sense, took the steam out of it.
I forget who said it, but essentially, it's not the NFL owners. It's not like they came out because they were suddenly like, "Oh, you know what? Cap is right. Police brutality is bad." It was because the president of the United States was attacking the Shield and attacking the franchise. And that's what they know how to do, is defend the Shield. And I forget who it was on ESPN who had a really great monologue about that.
So Donald Trump was so obsessed with the NFL and with the players that he totally forgot about Hurricane Maria hitting Puerto Rico. By somebody's count, it was 22 tweets last weekend, not this past, the weekend before. 22 tweets about the NFL, not one about Puerto Rico and the people, this human suffering down there, Americans suffering in Puerto Rico. Is this his Katrina, Van?
Well, I would say be careful what you wish for, because he did start tweeting about Maria, and they were terrible tweets.
Very bad.
Very bad tweets.
But when he started.
When he started.
Oh, yeah. When he discovered it, he attacked the people of Puerto Rico.
Actually, I think the one thing people in Puerto Rico and people who are dealing with disaster response still from, say, Harvey and Irma on the mainland, is that the president doesn't have a whole lot of direct control over immediate aid response, and it sort of goes on autopilot without him because his rhetoric was awful, and Bush was blasted for much, I think, less bad sort of open rhetoric about Katrina. And he was rightly blasted, I think. And Trump will bear, I think, the blame when the immediate relief turns into long-term relief, when that's going to have to involve debt relief, and it's going to have to involve rebuilding infrastructure. And he came out and said, Puerto Rico basically, they don't want to work. They want everything done for them, and he blames on all these Puerto Rican, the debt and the infrastructure. They got to pay for it. Like, when it turns into a humanitarian crisis over the next couple weeks and months where it's ongoing, then you'll see this rhetoric becomes the real poison.
Right, yeah. And I'm making the point about, they had all this, they owed Wall Street all this money.
Right. It's
like almost, that means they deserve to be destroyed by a hurricane.
Yeah, it's entirely in line with the Trump rhetoric and in a lot of ways the entire Republican Party rhetoric of, you've got to bootstrap yourselves out of, whatever terrible hardship befalls you. It's all on the individual, except when it comes to Wall Street. In that case, socialism is fine.
Yeah, but I think it's as you point out, it's going to come back to haunt him. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a reception that he gets down there tomorrow. But of course, he redeemed himself yesterday by showing how much the people of Puerto Rico, how much he loved them, by dedicating the golf trophy at the President's Tournament yesterday to the poor people of. What a show of empathy, right?
Luckily, people can eat trophies, that's perfect.
These millennials with their participation trophies, I just don't know these days.
I picture a mother in Puerto Rico telling her children in their house with no power or water, saying, well, kids, the President's Cup trophy was...
So is he bringing it with him tomorrow? That's the one thing I wanted to know.
You know what? He would.
Stepping off Air Force One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I brought the trophy.
Yeah, this is it. Right.
It's totally disgusting and terrible. That's all you have to think about every day.
But it's great of you guys to come in to help us welcome Peter back today. Van Newkirk from The Atlantic. Emma Roller.
Spunger News.
Sorry. Changed jobs so often. I kind of forgot that.
Fine.
Right. And we have another couple of surprise guests for the next hour, top of the hour. Again, who knows who's coming in, but we'll find out. Back with Peter Ogburn and all of you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Giving you everything you need to fight the Trump administration. This is The Bill Press Show. Live at youtube.com/The Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say? Diplomacy. Who needs diplomacy? We got war. So Rex Tillerson, you're just wasting your time with that diplomacy shit. Hey, what do you say, folks? Great to see you today. It is The Bill Press Show on Monday, October 2nd. We're happy to see you and glad that you joined us and hope you had a great weekend. And we know why you're tuning in today. You're tuning in today to see the return, the great return we've been waiting for a long time of Peter Ogburn. He is standing strong. We've been locking arms together this morning.
I'm alive, which is a marked improvement from 5 weeks ago.
Yes, indeed. Remarkable recovery. It's so good to see you back. Welcome.
Listen, really and truly, I am so happy to be back. Not just because the hospital food was terrible, and I'm tired of sitting around watching, reruns. I've run out of all the shows I wanted to binge watch at home. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see Jamie and Ray and Cyprian and everybody with the Bill Press Show. You guys were so great when I was off my feet, and it's nice to be back working with you again.
Well, good, so good to have you back, and we've extended it's the open door today for our guests. So all of our special friends of Peter's invited to come in and join us in welcoming him back. And look who's here, Alex Seitzwald from MSNBC, NBC, the whole network. Hello, Alex.
The whole Peacock family. Hey, Bill. Thanks for having me.
I know. I'm surprised you're not in Puerto Rico. They didn't send everybody down there?
They did not. Well, once Trump moves it up and starts tweeting about it more, maybe we'll have to be more on top of it. Yeah.
Right. Go down there. I'd like to go down there and interview the mayor of San Juan. She seems to be a real
the
pistol.
mayor,
right?
who, the photos coming out of Puerto Rico of her, wading through the waters with a bullhorn trying to find people to help. I'm sure Trump would do the same thing if it happened here, right?
As long as it was on a golf course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. She went to some hospital or a recovery home or nursing home or something, was carrying people out herself. And somebody said, why are you doing this? She said, what do you mean? It's my job. I'm the mayor, right?
Yeah.
But Trump's at his swank golf course at Bedminster accusing her of bad leadership.
Well, I think that's the answer. You just tell him it's a really big water trap, and his golf ball is in there. It looks like a person in a wheelchair, but it's just a golf ball. Put on the waders and dive in.
That's how you do it. You trick him
How you
into
do
smart.
it. All right. Yes, indeed. Alex Seitzwald here with us with Peter Ogburn. We'll jump right into all the news of the day. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories for you on this Monday morning. We begin baseball playoffs. Yeah, baseball playoffs begin tomorrow. It's official now. The AL and NL wildcard games are set for Tuesday and Wednesday in the American League. The number 5 seed Minnesota Twins will take on the number 4 seed New York Yankees in New York City. And on Wednesday night, it's the National League wildcard game, the number 5 seed Colorado Rockies versus the number 4 seed the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Now, Bill, you're probably wondering when the Nats play. Is that right? Do you know this already?
This weekend they play the Cubs.
The Nats kick off their series against the Chicago Cubs, number 2 seed versus the number 3 seed in Washington on Friday night at 7:30. The Dodgers will play the winner of the NL wildcard game on Friday night as well. It's a 10:30 start. In the American League, the Astros and the Red Sox, 2 and 3 seeds, Thursday at 4 p.m., and the Indians will face the winner of the AL wildcard game on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. So, a lot of talk about football, a lot of talk about football protests, but baseball playoffs are coming up.
No, exactly. I got to say, the Nats didn't exactly end the season on fire. They didn't look yesterday like they're ready for the playoffs.
I'm really thrilled that as they go into the playoffs against a red-hot team, they lost a series to the Pirates.
Yeah.
That's great. I feel really great.
A lot of people talk about getting rid of the wild card games because it kind of hurts the number 1 seeds. They have to sit and wait.
Yeah, true.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, who needs diplomacy? We got war, says Donald Trump. Tells Rex Tillerson to stop wasting his time trying to open negotiations with North Korea. Hello, everybody. What do you say on a Monday, October 2nd? So good to see you. Welcome to the program. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. and our studio right here on Capitol Hill with the news of the day and, most importantly, the breaking news of the day, the big story of the day. Sitting right across from me, Peter Ogburn, back from about 5 weeks of extended, unwanted time off.
I gotta
the last thing you wanted was open heart surgery, dude.
It was a nice 5 weeks. I gotta tell you, I got to knock off. I spent part of the month in a coma. I didn't have to read any Donald Trump news. It was great. I can't recommend it highly enough.
Can I get one of those comas?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, if you haven't had a coma in the Donald Trump administration, you're missing out.
Yeah, but I don't want to rupture aorta.
It was not fun.
Did you just like wake up and you're like, what'd he tweet?
Yeah. Well, there's actually we won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but I did have open heart surgery because I had a dissected aorta, which turned into a ruptured aorta. And if they didn't have me on a machine that was sort of circulating my blood for me, that would have been game over.
You
for
are one of the few people who survived that.
No, you don't survive a ruptured aorta. If you get a ruptured aorta, that's it. Like that, you're dead within a matter of seconds. Yeah. But because I was in the hospital, I was on the table, and they had me hooked up to a machine that was sort of circulating my blood for me, I didn't really necessarily need my heart at the time because I was under such good care of MedStar Washington and my surgeon, Dr. Jennifer Ellis, who I will forever be grateful to. But like, you know, I had a series of strokes while I was under, and you come out of this thing, and there's a term called an ICU psychosis, where you're sort of in this weird loopy state, and you don't you're awake and you're aware and you can recognize people, but you also just like imagine conversations that didn't happen, and you forget a lot of things. And so at one point they said, "Do you know where you are?" And I said, "I don't remember this. This has been told to me." Mm-hmm. And I said, "No, I have no idea where I am." And they said, "Do you know what year it is?" And I said, 2008. Mm-hmm. And they said, no. "Do you know who the president is?" And I said, "Donald effing Trump." And they said, "Oh, he's going to be all right. He's going to be okay." So they knew at that point, like, yeah, I'll be all right.
We remember the important stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's so burnt. That's so deep.
The smelling salts. Of,
that got me going right away.
I said a lot of unspeakable things that cannot be repeated to Peter while he was under, so you'll never know.
That's
Sorry.
fair.
Yeah.
Bill heard it, but you'll never know.
No. And we have to give it to Jamie, too, who did an incredible job while you were gone. If I'm always nervous when I go away that people take my seat, and I may not have a job when I come back. If I were you, I'd be nervous.
I know. I like all of a sudden Jamie's doing full court. What am I, unnecessary over here? Jamie has been amazing, and Ray has been amazing.
Ray and Cyprian here too, keeping it all going.
Hey man, you got big shoes to fill, literally.
The whole show. I can't spend enough time talking about what the show did while I was out. Spending time with me in the hospital, bringing me dinners, Bill bringing me bourbon in the hospital, which is frowned upon apparently.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah, right.
Sounded good to me. Well, listen, I hate to start on the news of the day. I hate to start here, but can't avoid it. Now the worst mass shooting in U.S. history happening last night in Las Vegas at a concert across the street in the parking lot sort of the Mandalay Hotel. And the shooter with a machine gun on the 32nd floor of the hotel, shooting from the hotel across into the tent, into the parking lot, into the concert. Over 50 dead, over 200 injured. Alex, we've seen this at the Pulse. We've seen it so many times. Not this bad, but there's going to be a lot of grief this week, and then we're going to walk away from it. My prediction is, and not do anything about the easy availability of letting some idiot buy a machine gun.
Yeah, I mean, I am dreading the political conversation that's coming because we know exactly the script that it's going to follow. We've seen it 100 times, and unfortunately, we're going to see it 100 times again.
And anybody who mentions guns might be a problem here will be attacked as being insensitive, politicizing this event.
Now is not the time for that.
Now is not the time. No.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so that's what's going to happen, right? Somebody, some Democrats are going to say, "Hey, maybe we should make it harder for these."
At least for machine guns.
At least for machine guns.
At least for machine guns.
Yeah.
We talk about these semi-automatic weapons or automatic weapons and things like that. And if you look on Twitter, and it's not necessarily for the squeamish, but there are videos from the concert, and it is jarring to hear the country music playing, and all of a sudden in the background, you just hear the of a machine gun in Las Vegas, like on a very heavily trafficked area in Las Vegas. It's really, really jarring.
Yeah.
And we talk about gun violence a lot, and we've seen the sort of the aftermath of some of these gun attacks, but like that to me was incredible to watch.
And the only two bills in Congress right now are both in the opposite direction to expand gun access. One would make it easier to buy silencers because that's obviously what we need right now. Because it's hard to buy silencers. And the other is kind of the holy grail of the NRA, something that they've been trying to push for years and years and have never been able to succeed in, but might now finally. And that's what's called reciprocity for concealed and carry. So that means that you can get a concealed weapons permit in, say Florida, which has very limited restrictions. And, you don't need to do basically anything. And you can then take it anywhere. And your license is valid in New York and California and D.C., wherever, places that have much stricter concealed carry permits. So those are actually coming up soon. I was supposed to cover the hearing on silencers the day that Steve Scalise was shot, and they delayed that hearing because a member of Congress, several members of Congress were shot at.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say that the silver lining for advocates of changing these things on the state level, it has been different since Sandy Hook. There has been progress. Bills have been passed. But I really think that moment, the Sandy Hook shooting, was kind of the end of the gun control debate on a national level. It's just, once we kind of accepted that was a tolerable...
That it's okay to massacre first graders.
Right. And we're not going to do anything.
Right.
Then I just...
When the parents from Sandy Hook came to Washington and walked the halls, and showing the pictures of their little 6-year-olds, right? And Congress just said, "So what? We don't care."
Yeah.
Right? Did nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, wish I could say what I wanted to say about them, but I bite my tongue.
Smart.
It's not going to happen. And we have a president who is owned lock, stock, and barrel by the NRA.
Well, and that's
They'll
what
sign anything they want.
Yeah, and that's exactly why the people on the other side, the Gabby Giffords of the world, are so worried about this concealed carry reciprocity thing, because this is something the NRA has been trying to pass forever. Even George W. Bush wouldn't do it, but they feel like Trump owes his position partly to the NRA, and now he's going to repay the favor.
Right. And it took a long time even for Barack Obama. I remember maybe 5 years before he even mentioned. It was before Charleston. But what was the one up in upstate New York? I forget. Was it Sandy Hook? Yeah, it was Sandy Hook, I guess.
Yeah,
right.
He did make a big push on that.
New York,
yeah,
Connecticut. But.
Yeah, and
but before then, he was like, I remember at the briefings we kept saying, "Why hasn't the president said anything about where is he on the assault weapons ban?" And Robert Gibbs used to say he supports it. Yeah, well, that's not the question.
Doesn't mean anything.
What the hell is he doing about it?
Yeah.
Right.
And even he was trying to triangulate on guns. I think that one of the only gun laws he actually signed, piece of legislation, was to allow you to bring guns in national parks, which had been banned, and then Obama loosened that, and on Amtrak trains. So Obama actually loosened gun regulations, but yet was seen as this boogeyman who was, coming to take all your guns away.
Right.
And obviously that went out in the narrative.
8 years. 8 years was the narrative that, even up to the very end, there was a concern that Obama was going to take all your guns away. And, not even close.
Not even close.
All right. So we've been talking a lot about Puerto Rico today. Donald Trump is heading down there tomorrow. He's saying might even stop by the Virgin Islands. What kind of a reception is he going to get?
Not a very good one, I'm guessing. When you have him feuding with the mayor, when you have Lin-Manuel Miranda, 10 minutes after tweeting some, motivational, inspirational thing, telling Donald Trump that he's going straight to hell. I think these people are pissed off, to say the least. They're furious at the response from the federal government. They feel there's a racial motivation or a racial bias in how he responded to Texas and
Do you think
Florida.
he knows they're Americans?
I think he's been informed they're Americans. Whether at the outbreak of this crisis he did, I don't know, to be honest. I think he does now, certainly. But yeah, I mean, but he's clearly treating them in a class apart, talking about, their bond holding and their state and local capabilities not being up to snuff. No one was ever talking about how Florida or Texas needs to, get their house in order before FEMA comes in.
Yeah, right. No, if you don't pay your bills, well, why should FEMA help you, right? Yeah. If you haven't fixed your infrastructure, then why should FEMA help you? And there's also that other problem, Jamie, about it's the geographic location of Puerto Rico that you have to understand. This is why we couldn't do more.
The response and recovery effort probably has never been seen for something like this. This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water.
Do we have Alec Baldwin, Saturday Night Live? Alec sort of he amplified on it a little bit about how dangerous that water is.
Ma'am, I don't know if you know this, but you're in an island in the water. The ocean water, big ocean, with fishies and bubbles and turtles that bite. We want to help you, but we have to take care of America first.
Do you think he knew it was an island before?
I'm not sure.
No, I'm still not convinced that he knows that Puerto Rico is part of America.
Yeah,
I think that's a really hard concept for him to grasp. And can you imagine any other president? I'm not trying to make the comparison of Obama versus Trump, but literally any other president going up there and saying, "Well, it's an island surrounded by a lot of water, big water, ocean water, and that's why we haven't done more."
Right. So he didn't.
They'd be laughed out of office.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost poetic in a.
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, this is a challenging thing, but that's the job that you sign up for as president. Turns out it's a tough job, and he says he's being treated unfairly when you have a difficult time responding to an island, a crisis on an island.
Well, a couple of quick things. Jose Andres, our master chef, one of the most famous chefs in the country, right here from Washington, D.C., has been in Puerto Rico for the last 2 weeks. They're serving 10,000 meals a day.
Yeah.
Okay, he could get his crew down there on the scene and get
to an island,
surrounded
by ocean water,
right.
Turtles that bite,
big water, and turtles
right.
that bite.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Jose Andres could do it. Donald Trump can.
That was the day that Jose Andres became president.
That's right.
Someone tweeted Jose Andres Pitbull 2020.
That's it.
Yeah, right. I Friday talked to one of the leaders of the Teamsters Union. So we were at a board meeting at George Washington University, and he said they've been on the ground. They've a big local there, but they have flown in resources. It's tough for them because the roads are out, getting supplies out to the more remote parts of the island. But they've got hundreds of people there, and they're delivering relief, right? So the Teamsters could do it. Donald Trump can. And I mentioned earlier the Washington Post reported, you might have seen, in 2010 when the earthquake hit Haiti, within 2 days we had 8,000 troops on the ground. Haiti happens to be an island, too. I mean, the island...
surrounded by ocean water. Big water.
Shared by Dominican Republic, but it's an island.
Not even U.S. territory.
Right. Within 2 weeks, they had 22,000 troops there, 33 ships, and 300-plus helicopters.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about a response, right?
And to your point...
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is at a swank golf course tweeting out, "Oh, we're doing a great job."
Yeah.
And like you said, that's not even U.S. territory.
Yeah.
That's a whole other separate entity that we felt compelled to help with. Mm-hmm. And Puerto Rico is part of the country.
Yeah. But all is well now because Donald Trump dedicated the trophy yesterday, the golf trophy, to the people of Puerto Rico. That must make them feel a lot better, huh?
Let them eat trophy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
They don't have plumbing, they don't have water, they don't have electricity, they don't have food, but they got that trophy.
Yeah, they can each share it. You each get a day with it, pass it around the entire country.
It's like the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
you just need to take it around the country.
I'm definitely a living example that miracles really do happen.
There we go.
Donnie, you're doing a heck of a job. So,
yeah, we really are there.
Yeah. So what's going on the Bernie front? We always talk Bernie with Alex because he covered the campaign. And
I think Bernie has survived his most recent brush with the Democratic establishment, if you will, which was over health care when he did that debate last week with some Republicans, Lindsey Graham, on health care. They all freaked out about it. And
they all said that he was going to help the Republicans by even talking about single payer.
Never mind the fact that single payer is extremely popular in this country.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're going to have to go make an argument for something, I'd way rather have him have to make the argument for that than to be on the other side having to make the argument for the Graham Cassidy bill. Rest in peace.
I saw a note somewhere this morning, early in the morning, so I don't remember that much about it. But the most popular politician in America today, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of polls. And this is why I think we really need to treat him as the front runner for 2020. He's, one of or the most popular politician in the country. He's the only one who's actually got an organization, a field program, dedicated grassroots supporters, a bunch of these kind of groups that have spun off. And I do think it's a wide open field, but I think he's got to be treated as the front runner.
And it's so funny to watch so many Democratic politicians try and pivot a little bit to the Bernie message, which was so popular. But it's clear that it's kind of like they're jumping on the bandwagon. Bernie has been consistent for the entire time that he's been around.
He was born talking about single payer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No kidding.
And he's the authentic. You're right. Yeah. Others have tried to climb on board. Even Elizabeth Warren. I love her and she's great, and probably agrees with Bernie on every issue. But he was there, carrying that torch in 2016, and she chose not to.
Yeah.
So it's really like his more than her time, I think, an issue. And I find it amusing that he's the most popular politician, the most popular Democrat today, and he's not even a Democrat.
Yeah, right. Well, and it tells you, I think, a lot that the people who are criticizing him and were saying that he was going to contribute to Republicans' effort to repeal Obamacare, none of them put their name to it, or very few of them did. It was all, anonymous G-chats. And it's because they're fighting a rearguard effort to prevent the Bernieization of the Democratic Party, and they're losing. I mean, he is when he gets up there and rolls out a single payer bill with Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker,
16 other Democratic senators,
all of whom, or most of whom, are running for president. Yeah, that tells you the direction that the party is heading. And they still have, they're bitter about last year, which is understandable. There's a lot of bitterness all around. But they are sort of on the wrong side of the history of the party, I think.
John Kasich yesterday said, indicated that he might actually, if the party doesn't get its stuff together, he might leave the Republican Party.
Do you buy that, or do you think that's an empty threat? Because people have been talking about starting third parties, and those almost never follow through. But it does speak to his frustration with it.
I don't buy it. I think what it says is that that he is thinking about a challenge to Donald Trump in 2020.
Yeah,
I would see that more likely.
That would be
because Kasich is a conservative. Let's not.
Yeah,
right. He's a conservative, no doubt about it. He's a true conservative, not a Trumper at all.
Yeah.
And I think he is legitimately appalled at what's happened to the Republican Party.
Yeah. I mean, I think somebody's going to challenge Trump, primary him.
Oh, absolutely.
The question is, the baseline is like Evan McMullin, the former CIA guy. But so that's the floor. And I think Kasich would be another level. And historically, every time a president has gotten primary, they've lost a general election, a real primary challenge.
Right.
I just don't see Kasich leaving the Republican Party. I mean, you look at
I don't either.
The organization, you look at the money, you look at the power that they still wield, even though they are not as big as Donald Trump. I just don't know how he launches, and I mean, I could be wrong. I just don't know how he launches into a big enough campaign to where he takes down Donald Trump.
It does speak to, if you're a guy like John Kasich, you look around and this is not a party that you recognize. It's Donald Trump's party. I mean, I was just in Alabama for that Senate special election.
I'm going there next, right?
Yeah, and so when Roy Moore wins and you're John Kasich, you've also fought this, healthcare repeal bill tooth and nail. What's left for you in that party?
Right. So, So Donald Trump last week, he loses the repeal effort the second time around, and he puts his reputation on the line to go down to Alabama to campaign for Big Luther, right?
Luther. Who is very big, I will say.
Yeah, he is. He is. Well-deserved name in that case. Little Rocket Man, Big Luther. But he loses. So Republicans have to say, hey, this guy, he talks a lot, but he doesn't have a lot of political clout, maybe as much as people think.
I think it's almost even scarier if you're a Republican, because Trump was on the wrong side of that race, but his people were behind Roy Moore in a big way. It was Trumpism.
You know it.
And
you know it.
And they thought, maybe we can get Trump to save us from Trumpism, because you can deal with Trump. You can negotiate with him, at least in theory. You can't negotiate with a movement or with an ideology. And the fact that Trump couldn't save them from Trumpism, I think, is really scary to Mitch McConnell and the rest of the party.
So where does that manifest itself in 2018 or 2020?
Well, the first places to look are Arizona and Nevada, where you've got incumbent Republicans who are super vulnerable. They're going to be the only real pickup opportunities for Democrats, and they both have right-wing challenges. And now Steve Bannon and all these folks are going to go all in supporting them. But then where it becomes, really problematic is if they can expand that, if they can scale it up, which they're talking about doing, to the House and to, challenge 20, 30 House members with right-wing challenges, primaries.
To me, I think so much of it is local. Like the Roy Moore thing didn't surprise me in the slightest, because Alabama is going to Alabama. And all of my family is from Alabama. I understand that. Arizona is a little bit different, but the rumors last week that Steve Bannon has talked to Tom Tancredo to come back in Colorado, which is a blast from the past. But if a guy like Tom Tancredo can win in Colorado these days, which Tom Tancredo I think is Trumpier than Trump, that I think would be very scary for not only Democrats but Republicans, because they will have officially lost their party.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, it's a hostile takeover of, just like Bernie is kind of doing, less hostilely, but he is taking over the Democratic Party. Trump is a much more hostile takeover of the party. Now he's the president. I mean, the Mitch McConnell's own super PAC, the Senate Leadership Fund, which put $10 million behind Luther Strange, they put out an after-action memo to try to figure out, what happened. And they concluded that the Republican-controlled Congress has replaced Obama as a boogeyman. That's a direct quote for conservative voters. So this is McConnell's own super PAC admitting that McConnell has become the boogeyman for
having the endorsement of the RNC or the Senate Republican Campaign Committee or Mitch McConnell, right, is a negative for Republican incumbents.
It backfires. Yeah. It's and so what do you do then? I mean, and you look at McConnell's approval rating among Republican primary voters is negative 40, net 40. It's terrible. And Trump is plus 30. So it's his party. He's the one who they're looking to now.
I guess we should still say, Roy Moore gets to the Senate, if he gets any doubt that he'll continue his agenda and shake things up and be taking on Mitch McConnell and on every issue?
I don't see any. I mean, this is a guy who, from his days as a high school student, he was a military policeman in Vietnam, and he was so strict that his men called him Captain America derogatorily, and he slept surrounded by sandbags because he was afraid one of them might kill him. This is a guy who has no problem making friends out of enemy or making enemies out of friends. Standing up for what he thinks he believes in. He's been fighting even before his famous Supreme Court or his famous Ten Commandments thing in 2003. He had a smaller Ten Commandments fight over a smaller court years before that. So no, I think this is a guy who does exactly what he feels is right all the time and has no problem, making everyone around him hate him. I talked to somebody who said if it's 99 against 1, that's fine with him.
Right. And his agenda is going to be anti-gay, anti-abortion, pro-gun, the whole thing. It's going to be the social agenda, right?
It's a throwback, yeah.
All cultural wars all over again.
Yeah.
Right? And any efforts on the Republicans to focus on middle class tax cuts or economics or jobs or whatever, Roy Moore is going to change the agenda.
Well, I do think he's going to be Luther Strange said he would be an anchor around the neck of the Republican Party, and I think that's right. Because it's the exact issues that Republicans don't want to fight on right now.
Right.
They want to talk about economics. They don't want to talk about, as Roy Moore said, transgender troops in our bathrooms. Kind of bungled that one a little bit. And he talks about sodomy in like almost every public speech. I've never heard a politician talk so much about sodomy. He seems a little bit obsessed with it, if you ask me. But that's not what Republicans want to talk about.
Tell me about it. Remember, I interviewed him in 2005 on C-SPAN. An interview that resurfaced a couple of weeks ago, where right back then he said homosexuality should be illegal, and gays, for consenting adults, the privacy of their bedroom, doesn't matter. They should be locked up.
Republicans thought that Ted Cruz was a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah.
Wait until they get a load of Roy Moore.
Exactly.
It's going to be really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad.
And we will be able to see him riding his horse to the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. Right down our street.
You'll have to ride right down Pennsylvania Avenue. Do you know this horse's name?
No.
Sassy.
Wow. Hates gay people, names his horse Sassy.
Yeah, right.
Someone should probably talk to Roy Moore about the name of his horse.
Sassy.
Sassy?
He likes to ride Sassy.
He likes to ride Sassy!
Hey, Alex, thanks for coming in. Welcome Peter back. We'll take a quick break. Stay with us, and another couple of mystery guests coming in. All right, here we go.
You're going to see in state after state after state people that follow the model of Judge Moore, that do not need to raise money from the elites, from the crony capitalists, from the fat cats in Washington, D.C., New York City, Silicon Valley.
Download our podcast, search for The Bill Press Show on iTunes, and remember to rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey friends, it's Bill Press here, and I want to tell you about an exciting new venture that we're embarking on here at the Bill Press Show, and ask for your help. First, I don't have to tell you, with Donald Trump in the White House, it's more important than ever to keep strong progressive voices out there on the media every single day. But you know what? It's also harder than ever for a couple of reasons. First, because there are so few progressive radio stations. Second, because station owners just won't put progressive voices on the air. And third, because even YouTube won't allow any ads on on commentary, progressive commentary, that's in any way political. I mean, you can't even mention the word war without YouTube pulling that ad revenue. And of course, without those ads, without that revenue, we can't raise the money we need to, pay the rent, to pay salaries, to turn on the lights, and keep those strong progressive shows coming your way every day, as we have for the last 12 years. So we've embarked on something new, and we need your help. We've just started putting up all exclusive content on a new platform called Patreon. Now, by becoming a Bill Press Show subscriber for a very low monthly fee, you'll be able to go to Patreon and get exclusive content, newsmaker interviews, progressive commentary, political columns that you won't be able to get anywhere else. And pretty soon, you'll be able to enjoy our very special podcast called The Making of Bernie Sanders. And again, it's all on Patreon, Patreon. So please go to Patreon today and sign up, become a subscriber to the Bill Press Show. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we will keep the resistance alive. Together, we will fight back against the destructive policies of Donald Trump, but we can't do it without your help. So please, go to Patreon today and sign up. Thank you.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. At work or at play, you're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Oh, hey, she's cute. Nice going, man. Things are going great for you. You've earned a night out. Good drinks, good friends. Yeah, we can go ahead and call this a good night. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Not smart. Yeah, I saw that coming. say goodbye to her. Ouch, that'll hurt your bank account. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. I hope you like eating frozen dinners. Alone. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Same great show, new great channel. Stream live video at youtube.com/The Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go on a Monday, October 2nd. Big day for the return of Peter Ogburn to the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Our open door this morning to all the special friends of Peter to come in and welcome him back. And look who's here, Jen Bendery from Huffington Post. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Bill.
There he is.
Hi, Peter.
Man.
Let's be clear. I'm an attention slut. So, I'm really enjoying today's show. And I just want to say again, thank you to Jamie Benson for scheduling an all-surprise rundown of guests for someone whose heart just exploded. I've made it so far. Will I make another half hour? Stay tuned.
And maybe we welcome Matt Fuller, too.
Matt Fuller is also
Post.
here.
All right, here we go.
He's here, too.
It's
whatever.
It's a HuffPost hour here, or a half hour on the Bill Press Show.
Glad you made it.
That's right. Looking good. It is the after Steve Scalise, the biggest miracle recovery we've seen in Washington, D.C.
I'm definitely a living example that miracles really do happen.
Thank you.
I think you need to get Steve Scalise one of those shirts you're wearing.
Yeah, right? I was in the same hospital that Steve Scalise was in, which is literally the only thing I have in common with Steve Scalise. But when they were showing the 60 Minutes footage of him doing his rehab stuff, I recognized it. I'd been there. Yeah.
If Steve Scalise had walked into the house last week wearing that T-shirt.
Have you said yet
2020
what your shirt says?
For those of you that are listening and not watching, Jamie Benson got me this shirt, which I love. It just says, "I ain't dead yet, MFers." The words of the nature boy Ric Flair. So, I'm not dead yet.
Do you know who Ric Flair is, Bill?
I have no idea.
Professional wrestler.
Oh,
he had a health scare the same time that I did, and they put out this shirt that says, "I ain't dead yet."
And the next special guest is Cyprian Bolding, who'll be telling us all about wrestling this morning.
Why would I know who this professional wrestler is?
That's
right.
That's a very fair question.
All right. So news. News of the day. God, where do we start? I'm going to avoid talking.
Ignore me.
Yeah. Talking any more about Las Vegas. We've talked enough about it this morning. It is now the worst mass shooting, mass murder, massacre in the history of the country. As we were saying the last half hour, and we won't do anything about it. There'll be a lot of noise for a couple of days, and then it'll move on.
There'll be a lot of thoughts and prayers.
A lot of
prayers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, we already heard them from Donald Trump this morning.
His warmest condolences.
Mm-hmm.
Exclamation
warmest
point.
condolences,
I know.
by the way.
Yeah.
That's what Donald Trump said in his tweet.
Exclamation point.
My warmest condolences? Is that a thing? It just sounds like the worst. It sounds like a knockoff, black market card you get for someone in the hospital.
Yeah.
My warmest condolences.
If it had happened a day earlier, he would have dedicated the golf trophy to them.
Yeah, right.
That'll help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That'll help the people of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who have no water or power or medicine or food.
Or roads to drive on, or frankly, cars to drive on those roads. It's a total disaster.
To me, the biggest disconnect was that Trump was accusing them of just repeating the criticism that they were seeing on television, accusing the people of Puerto Rico of seeing negative stuff on television and then repeating that to reporters. Didn't he realize they're not watching television? They don't have any freaking power, right? They don't have any electricity. And when you see them coming across these waist high in water, right, trying to get back to their homes, when you see that, that's not because they saw it on television. They're living it.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
And there's footage of we all knew Trump was at his golf course yesterday, or his golf
what is it called?
The President's Cup.
He was there, but before that,
he was at Bedminster.
Bedminster.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look up photos of what that place looks like, it is just obviously the most lavish mansion with amazing grounds and everything's made out of gold. And then I saw a picture of the San Juan mayor taken the same day, or maybe the day before, where she's literally wading through
waist deep
sewage water up to her chest to hand somebody something in a boat floating by. I mean, you can't get much more stark than that. It's depressing.
I think you put that next to what Trump tweeted over the weekend. The mayor of San Juan, who was very complimentary only a few days ago, has now been told that the Democrats that you must be nasty to Trump.
Right.
Such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan and others in Puerto Rico who are not able to get their workers to help. They want everything to be done for them. Which is remarkable for the president of the United States to say, especially someone who lives on golf courses with a giant staff of people who cook every meal and wipe his ass and do everything for him. But that's what he says about the people of Puerto Rico.
The general, what's it that this general? We've seen a lot of this guy. He was in charge of the recovery at Katrina, I think. General
Honoré.
Honoré.
Yeah.
He made this little connection yesterday.
What is your reaction to the president's tweets this morning?
I have no reaction. The mayor's living on a cot, and I hope the president have a good day at golf.
That's saying so much without saying it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, Jen, Matt, on a topic we haven't touched on this morning, we now know that Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, and maybe Reince Priebus, and I forget how many others, were using a private email server. How many congressional hearings are there going to be on the use of private email servers?
Does the word zero come to mind?
Probably the same number. Probably the same number of congressional hearings on gun safety. 0.
Really? Yeah. But and we were told Jared Kushner only did it because it was convenient, Matt.
Right. Oh yeah, sure.
It was more convenient to set it up at home, right, than have to go through all this government red tape and everything.
Well, we're constantly. There's no sort of sense of fidelity to like the Presidential Records Act here from this after making the emails a mainstay of the whole campaign. That there's no sense that this would be hypocritical. They don't really seem to care at all. It's just like go do whatever you want and who cares? Because they do sort of fashion themselves as untouchable, right? And there's no sense that they live by the same sort of political rules that they created. Right?
Well, initially, Trey Gowdy said that maybe we should look into this. Not going to follow through?
No. They can't even, no. They're trying to do everything they can to pass the things that they want to pass. They're not going to, and they can't even do that. They can't even pass the things that are their priority issues as the party that controls everything in Washington. So you think they're going to sideline themselves for a little bit on some hearings to look at the White House staff using personal emails? No.
And if they did, it would be purely just to preserve the talking point that they didn't, right? Or that it'd just be a perfunctory sort of affair that, check the box, nothing really. Who's going to go after them for this? There's no sense that Trey Gowdy's really going to bring the hammer down or anything.
Right. Well, maybe they won't have these hearings because they're going to be so obsessed with tax reform. They're going to be working so hard on tax reform. What do you think the chances are that they're going to pass a tax reform this year?
Well, I increasingly, I think I started off pretty pessimistic, but I really do feel talking to them that they seem to want to do this, and they don't seem to be playing by the rules of, that you have to pay for this or that they. I mean, if you talk to Republicans, one story we published last week was that basically you ask them, did the Bush tax cuts pay for themselves? And there's no data out there at all that suggests even slightly paid for itself. It increased the deficit by the debt. There's some estimates that 40% of our debt is the Bush tax cuts, but even the most modest says it's over $1 trillion. But Republicans say absolutely paid for itself, and there's no evidence. They don't have to play by the rules of,
The figure I saw this morning is that this tax, well, first of all, we don't have a bill.
Right.
It's just a sketch. But that from what we've seen, the economists are now saying $7 trillion over 20 years. Like it was whatever it is in the first 10
the window,
and then
right.
beyond in the next 10.
Well, even the bill itself admits it's going to lose $1.5 trillion. I mean, that's what they're setting it up for on the Senate side, that it's going to lose $1.5 trillion.
Cost
right.
us $1.5 trillion.
Right. And no one, we saw Bob Corker come out, I think, over the weekend saying, I'm not going to vote for it if it adds a cent to the deficit. But they all seem to believe this idea that tax cuts pay for themselves, that, there'd be this increased growth in revenue, but there's really no suggestion. I mean, if you look at the data, there's no clear line between those.
Here's as close as Paul Ryan could come to, Steve Mnuchin, Donald Trump, everybody says this is aimed at the middle class. This whole thing is about the middle class. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. Paul Ryan has pushed on it. This is the best he can do.
That's the purpose of doing this. The purpose of this is to get a middle-class tax cut.
So is that a guarantee?
Well, I don't know every single person's little small problem or their issue.
But it'll be minimal if nobody gets... If I'm a middle-class tax...
The entire purpose of this is to lower middle-class taxes. So, yes, people are going to get tax cuts. How big are those tax cuts? That depends on the individual.
He's lying through his teeth, right? There's no guarantee that the middle class is going to get a tax cut under this.
First of all, there are some people who the belief is that some of those rates could go up for people. Who knows what they're actually setting it at, and they might set a fourth bracket. But it's clear that the very top end is the ones who are going to get the majority of this, and then there's also the people who are at 10%. And even if you're doubling the standard deduction, he's right that there are individual cases, and who knows. But if you're in New York, right, and you get to deduct your state and local taxes, and that's going away, or at least they want it to go away, that fight remains to be seen. But it's clear that there are a lot of people who could see their taxes just sort of stay the same or whatever, and the tax code,
Except for people making over $730,000 a year.
Or who claim to have $10 billion of wealth, right?
Claim. Jen, I'm more pessimistic than Matt. I looked at the calendar. I looked to see if anybody could say exactly how many working days they have left in the year. Maybe but I couldn't find it. But I just
not know that number.
I just averaged out how many days they have worked so far in this calendar year. And if you followed that, they would have from last week, Friday or so, 40 days when they would be in session. Okay, they had 9 months to do health care repeal and couldn't get it done. Really? They're going to go on tax reform when they don't even have a bill yet and get it all done in 40 days?
So I'm not following the day-to-day discussions on this. Like Fuller's really good on that stuff. But I do have my doubts, because if you just step back and look at their track record so far, they just had a colossal failure on healthcare reform, and you cannot understate that enough. And that was what they ran on for years, and it failed. So they're picking up the pieces and they're moving forward with their next favorite thing, which is tax reform, which is what Paul Ryan has wanted to do all along. They don't have a bill. They don't have a plan yet, I guess. They have basic framework,
and they have the worst poster boy they could possibly have as president. Well, Donald Trump.
Well, Donald Trump.
To try and sell it. This is a guy who has grifted and worked his way around the system for his entire life and career, and that's the guy you want to try and sell tax reform to,
and who
Americans?
Won't release his tax return.
But his constituency, he only needs to convince 218 Republicans in the House and 50 senators in the Senate. And for me, it's like healthcare. There was clearly a reckoning where the rhetoric was one way, and they had to confront reality that they weren't going to bring down prices for people, that they were going to have to screw over people with pre-existing conditions, and a lot of those realities were difficult. And in some cases, they just sort of rejected that idea that they were doing these things that they were. But on tax cuts, the rhetoric has been pretty consistent. We just want to cut taxes.
The rhetoric also has been consistent that we don't want to add to the deficit or the debt. Their entire, since I've been following politics, that's what the Republican meme.
But they falsely believe that it doesn't. They just think that, well, this is a philosophical disagreement.
Some do.
Some do. I mean, and you might be right that there are some who are going to hold the line here, but I'm looking for those Republicans who are going to be the ones to say.
Well, you got one so far. But you said, I thought rather flippantly, that all they need are 50 votes in the Senate. How can we be so sure that they can do this through reconciliation? Can they? Automatically? They don't need 60 votes?
I think it's pretty clear that they have a budget resolution that's ready to go. I think actually they'll be able to do more of the tax cut stuff. One of the challenges with healthcare was that a lot of the things they wanted to do through reconciliation they couldn't do, whereas tax cuts
they can do under 50. With
now,
just 50.
But there are actually some trappings here, not to get too in the weeds here. Where there are some bird rules things that are going on, whether they can do dynamic scoring or static, basically accounting for this increased economic growth or whatever. But I generally think there are 50 votes to even change the rules or whatever they have to do to get what they want here. I mean, maybe you might. I think the Senate is the more challenging place, and there are lots of trappings here to go with charities and the standard deduction and all sorts of groups are going to come out of the weeds here. But I think there's real motivation from Republicans after failing on health care, and that they can just say, end of the day, 2020, 2018, people look at their tax cuts and say, oh, Trump sucks or whatever. I'm embarrassed, but at least I got my taxes cut.
Yeah.
And they think that's a winning strategy.
I think one thing they've got going for them this time, too, compared to healthcare, is that healthcare mobilized millions of people around the country around a very personal issue because everybody is affected by healthcare and health problems. With tax reform, there's a lot of numbers flying around. There's a lot of wonky phrases and boring conversations about percentages and deductions. And my eyes glaze over hearing myself say those things when I ever talk about tax reform, right? So I think they've got, to their advantage, they've got that people probably are not going to be as fired up about tax reform as healthcare reform, and they could push through something without as much public pushback on it.
You are definitely right about that. I mean, really, there's a reason why Congress has not dealt with tax reform since 1986, I think, right? Or
although, I mean, if you
like
could
that.
take it, the 2001, 2003 tax cuts,
well,
fiscal 2012.
Tax cuts
are
not
this is what
tax reform. I mean, the major tax reform, which they say they want to do, the last time was under Ronald Reagan.
Sure.
And I believe Republicans lost the House, or maybe both, in the next election because, I mean, the American people, it's not a real hot burning issue for them. Too wonky for one. I mean, Donald Trump thought healthcare was complicated, right? So, how is Mitch McConnell feeling these days after losing the repeal effort, which he was foolish, I believe, to even try, and losing Alabama?
I think last week he may have had the worst day of his entire career, arguably, because the healthcare bill went down again on his watch, and his candidate lost in the primary in Alabama. He also, don't forget that Bob Corker announced he's retiring. Bob Corker is a solidly, likable, longtime member of the Republican Party in the Senate.
I just want to say really quickly, it was a really, really tough week for Mitch McConnell, and I know that we're very progressive, but at the end of the day, we're all humans, and I just want to say to Mitch McConnell, who cares, you weirdo? That's so great. I'm glad he had a good week.
Warmest condolences.
Warmest condolences on your terrible SE week.
Yeah.
President Trump.
Where there aren't the votes.
Anyway, sorry.
Wow. Welcome back, Peter. Yes, he's having a terrible time right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's got to, weaken his leadership, right? People.
And Trump's not happy with him again. Yeah. Not that they've ever been particularly close, but last week was Trump's name is now tied to healthcare going down and to Luther Strange losing the primary. So, I guess the primary, it's a weird election. But now Trump's tied to that. And he can look at Mitch McConnell and say, this guy made me do this,
So, right. So maybe, Matt, Trump says, well, I guess maybe I should be making more deals with Chuck and Nancy.
Nanchuck. You gotta call him Nanchuck.
Nanchuck. Oh, I like that. Right.
Yeah.
Could we see? I mean, I know some Republicans are now starting to balk about making too many of these deals, but Trump doesn't care, right? If he sees a win, he'll do it, won't he?
I think that's right. And the only thing I would say is he's now realizing there's political blowback beyond. I mean, and obviously Republicans did not rebel against the CR or debt deal stuff. I mean, there was some chattering, but I think that he does now recognize that when he makes these moves, he's the one who takes the blame for these bad deals. Now they're gonna if you're going to make a debt limit deal and CR, he can blame Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan if they do it, right? And it's their fault. And he's.
I don't think he thinks it was a bad deal.
I think he's coming around to the idea that there were things in there that he didn't like, and I certainly think that if his motivation, and I've heard this, is to say, I want to get rid of Paul Ryan or I want to get rid of Mitch McConnell, that when he makes those deals, not them, it hurts the whole effort, right? That this is not something that they're doing. He's stepping in and sort of taking the bullet inadvertently, right? He doesn't know what he's doing, right? He doesn't know that this deal is going to get made with or without him.
Wouldn't you see it, though? Let's say the Dreamers, right? I mean, if he can pull off a deal with Chuck and Nancy on the Dreamers, I mean,
Nanchuck,
sorry, Nanchuck. I would. It's hard to get inside of his head, but I think Trump would see that as a win for him, and get this monkey of immigration kind of off his back for a little bit. And
I think it would be to his advantage to help pass the Dreamers Act, change something, either pass the Dreamer bill itself or do something to keep dreamers in the country. But I think he'll take it wherever he can get it, and I think that I think the majority of people in Congress want to do something on that, and they know how bad it looks if they don't. So I don't even think that's going to be Trump and Nanchuck. I think that will be Trump, Nanchuck, and something involving Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, because in the end, they have a timeline that Trump imposed on them, which we'll see what happens after.
Which is March 2018. Yep. So,
but you've got all these people living in limbo right now, freaking out, as they should be.
Exactly. Which is why I was going to ask. That. So don't you think they might even move it up and try to get it done?
I think
this year.
Certainly, Nanchuck wants to get it done this year. Mm-hmm. I have talked to Pelosi a couple of times, and she's been like, end of year. This is our plan. Hopefully before end of year. But then again, Pelosi's not in the majority, and she can have her wish list, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. But this is one of the things I think that everybody actually wants to do something on.
But there is political blowback for these things, and within Trump's base, him. I mean, you saw stupid Ann Coulter saying, who doesn't want to impeach Trump now? But if you made a DACA deal, right? There's his base, which was extremely anti-immigrant. They're going to be the ones who he sold us out. He lied to us. The only immigration bill that they really did was this DACA thing. So I think he's going to want us to take a step back and not be the one who makes that deal.
We keep waiting for his base to desert him. Man,
one of these days.
I know. I'm not even sure. All right. Matt Fuller, Jen Bendery, thanks for joining the Welcome Back party.
Yes, and welcome back.
Thanks for coming in.
Welcome back.
And Peter Ogburn, great to have you back. Are you coming back tomorrow?
No.
Oh.
I'm going to show up once every 5 weeks. That's my new rule.
Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll be here.